That doesn't look right. What is up, Airborne TV? My name is Jaden Paget, and today we're talking compression systems. I picked out a variety of our products to show you guys the 4 different compression systems that scooters will run. We're not really talking about the 4th one, but I'll mention it briefly. I've chosen to show you guys the SCS compression, the HIC compression, and the IHC compression. There's also the ICS compression, but we don't like them. We're gonna start with the SCS. This is what I ride. I really like the SCS. We're gonna start with that. Right off the bat, you notice that it's a quad clamp compared to your double clamp. This doesn't mean you've got more compression. This doesn't mean you're better than the double clamp. But what it does mean is that 2 bolts are gonna grab onto the fork while 2 bolts are gonna grab on to your bars. You hear that? You still only got 2 bolts on your bar. Along with your SCS compression, you're also gonna need an SCS fork. We'll go into the details on why you need an SCS fork, but first I'm gonna run you through how they all fit together. We're gonna take our SCS fork, we're gonna take our SCS clamp, and we're gonna throw them on the deck, and I'll show you how they piece together. First, I'm gonna grab some headset bearings. This is the bottom, there's the top. And we're missing a piece. We're missing our compression ring. I'll be right back. Compression ring. Thanks to our lovely cameraman who found it. Shout out Dan. We're gonna pop this on your fork. These usually come with your fork. It's gonna slide just in between the bearing and the fork. You can either choose to run a headset cap or you can choose not to. Most of the riders do, so I'll pop one on here. Now we're left with a bit of fork here. We're left with a bit of fork, and that's great because that is where our SCS goes. Just like so. All right, now we're ready for this. So we're gonna drop this. Hopefully it landed correctly. I think it did. And we're gonna give it a tighten. That is fully assembled SCS onto your fork. So if you were to put your bars on now, you would pop them right into here. If you've got oversized bars, it's suitable for that. You can just pop them right in, no shim. But if you have...
We lost something.
Standard bars, you're gonna take your shim, which usually will come with your SCS, and you're gonna pop that right in. Now the shim's in, your standard bars can fit into the SCS. All right, now we've got 4 bolts, all right? So 2 of the bolts, like I was saying before, is gonna grab onto your fork, and the other 2 bolts are gonna grab onto your bars. And that's the way that the SCS style compression works. Now we're gonna move to the HIC. Great thing about that, we can use the same fork. Whenever you have an SCS fork or an HIC fork, you can use either compression that you'd like. We need an HIC kit. We, in fact, have the lucky HIC kit. I'll pop it open here. We'll see what's inside. There we go. All right, so we have a compression bolt, a compression washer, and a shim. All right, so how do these all fit together? Well, we're gonna go back to our fork here. We're gonna take our shim and we're gonna pop our shim on. Now, we're gonna take our washer, it's gonna sit right on top of the shim. We're gonna take our really long compression bolt, pop it in, give it a tighten. I think that's tight. So it's not tightening, we got a problem. The shim's just too long, right? If you look down the shim, the fork is all the way down there. It's just too long. So, lucky HIC kit, no good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move towards the Envy HIC kit, all right? Envy's decided that they make their shims a little shorter, and that'll work better for this particular case. Same 3 parts, we've got our shim, our bolt, and our washer. Pop that shim right on. Washer right on top, and our bolt. Our bolt sticks up, that means it will tighten. Let's get to it.
12 seconds later.
All right, we're there, that's it. Looks a little bit different from the SCS. Now let's pop some bars on, see what it looks like with some bars. These bars, I like these bars. Were you filming that? All right, we're gonna go with the Ethic Tenacity bars. I really like these bars. They're steel, but you can never tell. They feel like titanium, I swear. They're super light. So why I chose these bars have a slit in them, all right? If we're doing HIC, our bars have to have a slit. If they don't have a slit, not gonna work. But we can cut one for you. So if your bars don't have a slit, come on down to Airborne Action Sports and we'll cut a slit in your bars for you. What are we missing? A clamp. Gotta choose a clamp. So we're gonna go to our clamp selection. I like this Proto. We're gonna go with this Proto knuckle clamp. All right, some heavy duty HIC clamps here. Inside, we've got a shim, but these bars are oversized. So we don't need that shim, we're gonna take it out. We can just slide this clamp right on. Good, pop it right on top of our shim. That's perfect, that's exactly what we want to hear. Now from here, what you would do is you would of course make sure the bars are straight with your wheel. If they're straight, you'd tighten these 2 bolts and you'd be all set to shred. Now that, folks, is the HIC compression. It's actually stuck. I didn't even tighten these bolts. We're now gonna move to IHC. A lot of letters here, it might get confusing, but don't worry, we'll have you feeling good by the end of this video. IHC, we're now gonna need to switch to a different fork. For SCS and HIC, we can get by with the same fork. So take a look, let's see the differences, all right? So Lucky has Envy, their Declare fork, they offer it in the SCS HIC, and they also offer it in the IHC, all right? Now, what are the main differences? Well, mainly, in fact, I think the only difference is the stem diameter, all right? If you take a look, we've got a thick boy and we've got a thin boy. So for IHC, we do need our own compression kit also. So an HIC compression kit is not gonna work. You gotta get an IHC compression kit. So what does that consist of? Well, let's take a look. So when you buy an IHC fork, you're gonna get an IHC compression kit. Sometimes, some forks come with it. The Envy Declare, Envy comes with one. We got a shim, we've got a very long compression bolt, we've got our washer, and then we've got our compression ring. Back with the deck that we were working with, we had our compression ring for the IHC and SCS fork. It's not gonna work now because this fork's a different diameter, thinner than the other one, so that's not gonna work, no good. What we now need to do is use our IHC compression ring. Now this is gonna fit much nicer, it's a little smaller, fits nice and snug on there. All right, let's pop it in and see what we're looking at. Pop our compression ring, grab our, actually, you know what? We can either put this on now or we can put it on later. I'll put it on later just to show you that it works that way too. We're gonna take our shim, washer looking thing, and just like HIC, pop the bolt in just like so. Now let's give it a tighten. Not this one, that one.
A few moments later.
Nice and tight, good. Spins nice, very nice. We're running the Airborne custom bearings. So if you guys need another headset bearing, come on down to Airborne Action Sports and we'll get you hooked up with some pretty awesome headset bearings. Like I said before, we can either put the headset cap on before or after we install the shim. So I'll show you how it works. Just pop it on right on over the shim. Now, we can do that with IHC because our IHC shim is thinner. Right? The IHC shim, say that 3 times fast. The IHC shim is thinner because our fork's thinner. All right, so that means we can put our top cap on over top after it's all assembled. Looks pretty similar to the HIC, but it's just a little bit thinner. That means we gotta run aluminum bars. All right, I'll show you what. So an example of aluminum bars, we got the Envy Reapers here. Now, the inside is narrower, so it's gonna fit on our narrower fork and our narrower shim, just like this. I'll show you. Now we're missing the clamp. Let's grab a clamp. So, yeah, just like HIC, your bars also need a slit in them, all right? So if your bars don't have a slit on them, can't run HIC, can't run IHC. You gotta have a slit in them to run those two. If your bars don't have a slit, you can either put one in or you have to run SCS. Okay, so here, I'm gonna show you guys a trick, all right? So when your clamp is just not gonna fit on your bars, what you can do is called the coin trick, all right? This goes back to OG scootering, all right? Every OG rider knows this trick. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a clamp bolt, we're gonna take this coin, and we're gonna feed it through the opposite way. What that's gonna do is when the bolt comes in contact with the coin, it's gonna stretch the clamp, letting us fit the clamp over the bars. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm gonna tighten this bolt. Now that is actually stretching the clamp. I can feel the clamp expanding. All right, just like that. Now we should be able to pop this right on. Works like a charm. Make sure it's all the way in, and then we'll just take our bolt back out. And this is what it looks like when it's complete. It looks identical to HIC, but it's IHC. IHC and HIC are so similar. The only difference is that fork. The fork is smaller, it's a thinner diameter. There's not a lot of differences between HIC and IHC. Why would you choose one over the other? Well, HIC was the way to go back in the day. OG scootering, every scooter had HIC, but nowadays this new technology, thinner fork, makes the scooter a little bit lighter. You got a little bit thinner of a fork, right? So we see a lot more IHC scooters nowadays. Now, let's talk about the one that we don't like. ICS.
No, God!
ICS, you know, it's rare, but we come across it every once in a while. You've got this star nut and you gotta hammer it into your bars. This one isn't particularly the right size, but it would look like this. You'd hammer it all the way in. You'd pop your bars on top. And what you would do is you would take a screw and you would put it through the fork. All right, this is silly because then you'd have to take your wheel off if you got to tighten your compression. Put the screw through the fork and you would tighten the screw upward into the bar. It's a hassle. We don't want to do that. We don't carry the ICS, but hey, if you have an ICS scooter and you need us to work on it, we'll work on it for you. Let's get back to it. So if we've learned anything, we've learned that if we're running HIC or SCS, we need a certain fork. Or if we're running IHC, we need a different fork. But there's a hack. We're about to use cheats. If you have an IHC fork and you want to run HIC, but you don't want to spend all that money on a new fork, I present to you the IHC to HIC adapter by Root Industries. This is gonna let you run an HIC compression on an IHC fork. It's crazy, it's mind-blowing. The bottom of the shim is narrow, just like our narrow IHC fork, and the top of it is wider, like our usual SCS or HIC fork. So, you know, two different diameters on one shim. It's craziness. I'll show you what it looks like on the deck. Popping in our IHC fork, putting in our adapter right over the fork, just like so. That doesn't look right. We'll be back. Okay, I think I found the problem. Just like so. What's going on? We have our HIC compression ring, okay? We've got our top cap, and we've got our conversion kit shim. Cap on the shim. We're gonna take our compression ring, put it in between the fork and the bearing. Now there's still a little gap. What are we gonna do with that gap? Well, the bottom of that shim is gonna fill that gap. So we're gonna put our shim and our top cap right over top, and the shim sits right in between, nice and snug, all right? So now we're gonna take our compression bolt, pop it on. Okay, now that we're all together, spins nicely, it's looking good. What we've done is we're riding an IHC fork on an HIC shim. So now we can ride steel bars. Affinity bars are steel bars, and they have, they're a thinner walled bar. All right, so the wall of the bar is thinner compared to our aluminum bar, which is a thicker wall. All right, that's a thicker bar. All right, and that's not gonna fit on because we've just converted it to steel compatible. So now these are our steel bars, our thinner wall bars. These should go on nice and snug, and they do. Now there's one thing you might notice about these affinity bars, there's no slit. No slit means these are only compatible with SCS. What we would need to do is cut a slit in these bars and then put our double clamp over top of that, and then it would work. All right, the bars need a slit for HIC and IHC. No slit, SCS only. To finish off, we had our SCS, we had our HIC, and we had our IHC. For the IHC, you've got the thinner fork. For the SCS or HIC, you've got the thicker fork. And if you want to run HIC with the thinner fork, you've got to go with the adapter here. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for tuning in today. It's a pleasure to have you here. Hope you learned something. If you haven't already, go follow Airborne Action Sports on Instagram. It'll be right here, the tag. Go follow our wonderful cameraman, Pogi Skateboards. Pogi behind the lens. Shout out Pogi. Yes, sir. He's always getting clips. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you again next time. I should use a fork for this. All right, so look, let's just take a look. This is not, so then we're just gonna.